We are live. Whether you are live or on the replay, thank you for joining me. Let's chat this wire binding. So here's my beautiful brand new level 7 books, and then here's a well loved and well used level 3 book, and you can see how this has been lifted up. When I did the brand new level 3 flip through comparison and flip through and stuff, this poor book, as I was flipping through and comparing, kept falling out. And that's just the complaint that we had through all of using this and using our other books. And I'm just finally ready to try something else. So that's why we're here. I'm ready to try something else in it. I also have the Math 3 book that was this. Now this one wasn't as bad because we did try something here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Can you see? I'm not sure you can see it, but there's this tiny little thread here. I don't think you can. Basically, we just ran a little bit of thread, like needle and thread, through here to try and keep this closed, which ended up helping it kind of hold together, but it was still, it's just not our favorite. Like the pages would rip funny and stuff. It's just not my favorite. So the solution I have is a spiral coil, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And now that one, the pages might rip too, but I'm just ready to ditch these, okay? So let's see. I have my notes. Let me try and keep track of answering all the questions I had and kind of showing you, walking you through it. So the binding, when it comes to this kind of binding, it's really not that huge of a deal on these skinnier books, right? So we have like the science units have this exact same binding, but they're really tiny, and the unit only has like 10 lessons, sometimes 14 lessons, and mom is the one handling this most of the time. So the wear and tear that you saw on that level 3 doesn't typically happen. In fact, this is the one unit that we're the farthest in this style, and it's holding up pretty well. We're on lesson 6 of this one, and it's doing okay. It's holding up. It's not as big of a problem on this kind. It's also like on it for handing it to the kiddos. This is a book that's been thrown around a lot, put on the computer stand, put in a box, put away everything. And it's still doing pretty okay. So I feel like the thinner version of this wire binding does fine. Here's a handwriting one. This really gets taken everywhere, right? And this one did fine. Like they finished it up. This one did fine. It just really comes down to those thicker course books that are like, because even the history book, it's this thicker book, right? And I often found just a real struggle trying to move through it. Now, part of that is probably just I stuffed it so much with more, but I will be rebinding this one just because we're just barely getting into unit 4, and I really am ready to just, I just want to use my supplies, and I just really am done with the coils on these bigger books, especially in the history with the storybooks. Now, getting to the different storybooks, I just have a really hard time with this binding, so I'm gonna switch those out. But on the video, we'll see how far we get and what I want to show you there. Let me set these aside somewhere that I can maybe come back to them. So when it comes to the binding here and the issues that we're having, I highly doubt that we're the only ones, because the Good and the Beautiful has talked about it, and they're switching to this perfect bound type of binding. So you see it here on the Constitution unit, and they're updating the history units. So I have a feeling that the new history units will probably be in this binding instead of any kind of wire. They've also been updating, like we just got this in the mail today, the second Little Hearts and Hand Science unit, Wind and Waves. And I noticed as I was just glancing at it, I didn't talk about this in the flip through, which all of these, if I have a video, are linked in the description box, and I'll let you know which ones I don't have a video. They're all mentioned in the description box if you want to look at more. But here you see full color wire bound parent guide, but it's not wire bound. So I think they're starting to make a shift, because this Field and Flowers came wire bound, but it is that skinny one. It's been fine. And this one came perfect bound. And then the Language Arts Level 3 that I compared this one with came perfect bound as well. So I'm not sure if they're testing that out on the course book, or if something in the piloting suggested that, or is just they're just moving in that direction, and that print just got the first round for the language arts. Maybe as they sell out different, sell out of printing, the next printing will come with this perfect bound version. I'm really not sure, but we'll just have to see how it goes, right? So I still have these ones I want to switch out. I have a kiddo doing level 6 in the old version and level 7 because that's just a better fit for them than the newer versions. So they both have these coils, and we're going to get those switched out. Now let's talk a little bit about questions that I came across as I was researching this, because my thought was, can I actually just switch it? Is it different? Are these holes cut different for it? And yes on both of those questions. So let's kind of go through. Let's see, where am I at in my notes? Let me move those aside. Talked about why, the ones that are not a problem. Okay, so these holes here, when it comes to picking a coil and everything, there are two types of measurements. There's a pitch measurement, and then there's the coil measurement. And so let's talk about the pitch first, because that's kind of what answered whether or not I could actually do this. The pitch is the measurement of how many holes are within 1 inch. And it's usually from like here to here, this 1 inch, right? So you see that there's 2 in that 1 inch, which this may be upside down for you guys. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Can you see that here? In that 1 inch from the end of that coil, come on camera, to the end of the other coil, there are 2 holes. So that's like a pitch of what they call a pitch of 2 to 1. From what I could find of the continuous spiral coils, they came in 5 to 1, 4 to 1, 3 to 1. I could not find any 2 to 1s. My friend Chantel has talked about doing a 4 to 1 in here and just doubling up the holes, but seeing as I can just about get 3 holes in that 1 inch, you can see that there's about 3 holes there, right? I decided to go with a 3 to 1 pitch. And so that's how I made that decision in the pitch style. I was very much comparing. So the difference between, if that makes sense, the difference is how tight your coils are. So a 3 to 1 is a little wider, a 4 to 1, they're going to be tighter, 5 to 1 is going to be even tighter. And so you would be choosing your binding machine, your coils and your binding machine or whatever, based on the type of spacing that the binding machine is going to punch. And for the wire binding, this one's a 2 to 1. In fact, I think they're all a 2 to 1, all the ones that I could measure. So if we come up to the coil and go to the next coil, you can see that that's a 2 to 1. So I've already bound a few sample books as I was testing it out, and the 3 to 1 works perfectly. Like you'll see it as we rebind some. It's amazing how well it works. Now, when it comes to what size of coil, your pitch, right? You need to get a 3 to 1 pitch. Now, what size of coil? Now they come in, let's see, they come in big boxes of like 50 to 100. So you're not buying a small amount, which, looking at the price, left me wondering, one of my big questions was, well, can I just get one size of coil and use it for a bunch of them? So we will cover that in a minute. So I'm not sure that this really shows. Let's talk about it on this. I have this linked in the description box for you. I really hope this isn't too scatterbrained for you. Sorry. Welcome to my crazy ADHD brain. But if you have any questions and need clarification on anything, please drop it down in the comments. I would love to help you. So they have a coil diameter of millimeter size. And then they also have the fractional equivalent in inch size. And then the maximum thickness of document, including covers here, and the sheet capacity. So I went with the 28 millimeter, 1 1/8 inch coils. And let's see, what were we going to say there? As I was looking at these, trying to think, because I thought, okay, I have a document that fits about this size, and a document that's this size, and a document that's maybe this size or whatever. I was like looking at the prices for each of these and how many come in a box. I'm like, I don't want 150 coils of different sizes. And the price ranges were like 20 to 30s, 20s to 30s for each one. I was like, oh my goodness, can we just make one size work? So as they go smaller, they do get cheaper. As they go bigger, they're more expensive or whatever. So they do have a sheet capacity here, and this is sheet. This is like a sheet of paper. So if you print double-sided or your book is printed double-sided, divide it in two or whatever, because it's talking about a sheet of paper capacity. What I found was more important is to measure the thickness, because your paper weight matters when it comes to this. If you're using different weights of paper, the sheet capacity is not necessarily going to line up as well. So I measured with my ruler the thickness of my document. So for example, let's see if we can do this in a way that is going to work. And I measured them down by the coil, because you can see how it's thinner here and it thickens up here. So I had the measurement here, and we're in centimeters here, and these other little lines are millimeters. Oh, my camera does not really want to work with me. But you can see here how we're counting up the centimeter, or you can count up the inches and stuff here, because they are both listed. You could count either way. So I was just going off of that. So this was one size, right? This one was a different size. And then I had the level 6 book. I'm trying to get the right orientation for you. That was a different size, right? It wasn't quite 1 inch, but I figured with the fluff of use, it might grow to 1 inch. And what I mean by the fluff of use is this level 2 book, my kiddo is on lesson 70. And you can see, can you see what I mean by the fluff of use here? I figure these are going to fluff up. And you see how that one is much closer to 1 inch now. So I kind of round estimated up. And so it works great on this one. In fact, there's still room for it to fluff up even more if it needs to. So I was going for that 1 inch of document space based on the fluffing so far of this and the potential fluff of this one, and wanted to use that one for sure because that was my biggest one. And then there were smaller options. And so I thought, okay, well, can I use just this bigger one on all of them? And yes, you can. You can go bigger on a coil. You don't want to necessarily go too small on a coil. The only thing you're going to run into going bigger is we may see on one of these is that as your book, let's see if we can compare this. as your book sits, do you see how this is so like, I don't know, flush, whatever we want to say. It's really flush. And then this one, you can see that the coil sits up a little higher. Maybe you can see that. The coil just kind of sits up a little higher on it when it's sitting down. There we go. How do I show you that? Let's see. Okay, this is our little table. That coil just kind of pokes up like that. So you would have that when the coil's bigger, which is fine. Versus if your coil is too small, your pages will not turn properly. So bigger is fine, smaller is not okay. Now, let's say you have a smaller coil. You went with one of these smaller ones, or your price range really only fits one of these smaller ones. You can split the book up. You know, like just do maybe a part 1 and part 2. If you're printing it yourself, you could print the course thing and write part 2 or whatever. If you're still using this, you can just still take a copy or whatever, make a cover page to put on the other one and create a part 2. You can split them so that your sheet amount fits within your coil to be able to save some cost and only get one size. That's what I would recommend. So I chose to go to the average biggest size I think I'm going to need. And I'm just going to use that coil for all of my different books because I'm not trying to do those teeny. I'm not trying to bind these teeny little ones because they're okay. So I figured I'd go with the bigger coils. And that's just what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to do the bigger coils as long as they're working because it is kind of an investment. Like I said, we can get into the coils now. Let's look at them. These coils, you get this huge box. I have like 3 stacks of these big coils, right? And they were like in the $30 range. And then I also needed to get this little crimping plier tool, which was like $15. So there's a little bit of an investment going into this, which is why I just wanted to try and use one. And you can just go bigger, not smaller, or split your document. Oh, come on. I can see why my kiddos were having a hard time with this while we were pulling them out today. Oh goodness. And we need these to do this video. Okay, here we go. So these are the pliers that you'll need to cut off and crimp your edge. So I'll show you how to use these when we get to that. All right, have I driven you nuts yet? Have I covered everything that I wanted to talk? Does the size of coil matter? Yes and no. Just don't go smaller, go bigger. I have linked these specific coils, my reference sheet, and this tool in the description box. Let's see. We talked about consider your height of your document, your thickness of your document more than your sheet count, because that's what really matters. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments. Okay, so let's just kind of get into it. I don't know that I really covered everything. Oh, one of the ways that we found will save. So these are the 3 that we've done. We did these today. These 2, we actually did out of the same one whole coil. We've only used 2 coils so far. So one of these, this is actually like 2 whole coils. This is 3 whole coils. Okay. One of these did both of these books. And when we did this one, we had quite a bit left over as well. So what I want to try while we're here is I want to see if one of these will do both of these two books, the portrait and the landscape of level 7. That's what we're going to try and see how that works. But that could be a way that you save money. It's just going to make it last longer, really. The cost is the cost. You get the amount you get, but you'll be able to bind more books. And that may or may not be helpful, because if the Good and the Beautiful switches over to that perfect bound binding for all of the books, we may not be needing to rebind as many in the future. But maybe we'll need to print something, or we want to rebind whatever else. So I think I've covered everything. If I missed something, I'm sorry. Feel free to drop it down in the comments. If I'm driving you crazy with all my chatting, I'm sorry. So let's do the tall one first. What we're going to do, let's get into the how-to, right? We're going to just open all these up, and we're going to take it off. And then we're just going to leave our stack as a stack. While I'm doing this, if we haven't met yet, hi there. I'm Elaine from On the Same Page Together. We are a Christ-centered home of learning, and on this channel, we talk about all things family. We like to share what works for us as we strive to encourage you on your journey in life and family. I think I mentioned that I've linked everything that I have a video for down in the description box. And if you ever have a video request, drop it down there. I'm always happy to do videos that make sense for you. Man, the other ones were easy. I must not have pulled. Oh, yeah, no, that should be fine. Let's pull some more. I must not have pulled it enough. The other 3 books were much easier than this. Granted, they were books that my kiddos were very excited to pull open. So they probably opened them up nice and big. Okay, we got this wire junk off. Now we're going to put our nice cover back on. And how we're going to do this is we're going to find the way that this top coil coils in nicely, but from this end through here. So you're pointing your coil down. I don't know if this is too high. Let's see. Can we come down a little more? That might be helpful. Okay, so our coil is pointing down, and we want it to start here so that it can wrap this way. And we're just going to go ahead and run it through all of our pages. So we've caught all of our pages in there. Yep, they're all in there. And we're going to go ahead and turn it. And we're just going to pull it over to that next hole. Work your way down. And it's so easy. It almost does it itself. Just get in the hole and twist it down. Oh, but I can't speak too soon, right? Just taking it through. I'm sorry, this is live, so I can't speed this up like I would normally, but you know, I don't know. Let's chat. Are you hoping to do this with your books? My kiddos really enjoyed doing their own book. If this looks like a tedious task for you, my kiddos rebound their own book after I tested it on one. Okay, so we're just twirling it, putting it into the next one, continuing to twirl. Oh, if you want to speed me up, actually, on the replay, there is a little settings button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, whether on mobile or desktop, I'm pretty sure on both. And you can just click on that little settings icon, that little cog, and speed me up so that you can get past this faster than just sitting here watching me. I wonder if the difference here is the thickness of the book. I don't think so. It might just be the awkwardness of filming it. Well, I guess I'm glad I answered all your questions ahead of time, and so I could, in theory, visually show you then and not have you explain it through all of this. So that you can jump ahead. But if you're still here listening to all of my ramblings, trying to get through this and not have you just sitting in my breathing, give me a thumbs up or let me know. Did you stick around through all of my individual, or can you hear me at the speed that you sped me up to? This is really easy. It's just a matter of twirling it. It basically catches all the pages all by itself. You're just guiding it through, putting the work in to guide it through. And we didn't even have to put in the work to format it and print it and use all the ink. We didn't have to put in the work to punch all the holes into it. We're just twirling in the spiral. It's not bad, right? I'm going to slide that in and we're going to see if this goes. There we go. Look at that. Okay, we're just about there. Now, because I have had some practice with this and I want to see if this will fit on that other one, I am going to go ahead and stop it here and trim it from here till you save as much of this coil tail as I can. So this tool has a little red dot here, does not on the other side. That's because this is a right-handed tool. You can do it left-handed. I saw some product pages do it, but this needs to be facing up. It will be in your hand over here. And actually like this. Oh, just knocked over my water into the wire. And you're going to go to this last coil here. And you want to go into the middle, not too low, not too high, kind of into the middle here. And you're going to just quickly, as quick as you can clamp it tight. And then I like to do a little twist to kind of really seal it. So we're going to clamp it and twist it here. And then you have this nice little coil binding. For this side, you've got to flip the whole thing over. So we're going to bring that back over. And where you would do, you would have more coil here, but again, I was saving it for this because I've had some practice here. You would clip it and twist it, and then you have that there. Now, the length here can kind of be dependent on what you're looking for. Let me show you the two that we did, because we did two different lengths. This one was like this. The level 4 we did like this one we just did, where we took it to the last coil, went to about the middle, and crimped it off on both ends. So you can see that it all sticks in to there. With this level 6 one, we went a little farther. In fact, it was like we went one coil past, like we took two coils past on each side and went to the outer coil and crimped it in that area out there. And that's how we got this longer tail. You can also like adjust it and crimp it. So you're just going to have to work with that and see how you want it. Maybe you go out one and crimp it and see. But your box came with 50. So don't be afraid to just test it out. And if you don't like it, run another coil through. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to test it out on this one. We're going to see if this coil will fit in here. I have a feeling that it will, but we're going to find out by testing it out, because if it doesn't work, I will just save you the watching of it and do it another time with another coil. But there's no harm in trying. So we're stretching this one out farther. Hopefully it comes out better. This is the course book, and the other one we did was the course companion. So here's what we're talking about. Can you see? I don't know if you can see. With a bigger coil, your book just sits down farther and the coil comes up. It's not that big of a deal though. I mean, it looks interesting. It may be kind of weird going on the shelf, but I don't want to pay in the $20 to $30 range for another size and have another 50 of a whole different size. I just don't want to. So the slightly bigger coil it is. Oh, come on. Now I don't know how how we feel yet about the true bound binding that the Good and the Beautiful is using. I'm just not sure. We have it for Simply Good and Beautiful Math, and the jury's still out. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't. So we'll see if we end up needing to chop off that binding and recoil. And at that point, maybe I'll need a different size. But I still don't think so, because those math books are not, they're smaller than the previous books, but they're not that much smaller that I would have to use a significantly smaller book coil. Okay, let's see if we got this. Oh, I mangled my poor child's pages. I'm sorry, kiddo. Too much of a rush trying to get this done for you guys. Oh, and I was not quite. Oh, this was one of the things. If you ever picked it up by the binding on accident, you were bound to pull these things out. Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, I gotta grab my coil. Okay. So we have our course book put back together. We have our coil pointing down, starting on this end so we can just coil over. And we're going to go ahead and catch. I'm lifting it up in sections to make sure I'm catching everything on this first rung. Especially with this one, the pages seem to be sticking together a little more. That is funny. Okay, last section. All right, made it through. Goodness, you'll see this fluffing. I'm not loving it, but we're gonna see if we can make this better. There we go. Putting it in. join these together more. There we go. I'm waiting in suspense to see if my scrap will work. If we'll be able to have enough. This one's needing a little extra help feeding through. I don't know if that's my doing or something in the wire catching, because these pages are just eaten up. Okay, I think I'm going to spare you from doing the history books. I'll just do those on my own at some point. I've shown you the thicker level 2 that's been fluffed up with use, and it's doing great. You saw the level 6, which is what these were bought for. Look at that. I think it's going to do. We only have 3 more to go, and we still got all this. But it is not. There we go. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. It's not wanting to feed through on its own as much. I'm sorry. I'm getting you're not in range as well. Okay. Last one. And we're going to check this to see if it went through, since it's been struggling so bad. Oh, I think I'm going to be able to use this to show you what I meant by having a little extra. Because it is perfectly sized for that. Look at that. Full coil on each side. That's so exciting. Okay, let's quickly look. We're getting a good chunk. Yep, even with all that struggle, it caught all my pages pretty darn well. Yeah. Okay, so if we're doing this, here's what I meant about the extra, to get that extra length. We have this extra coil here, and we would just cut it here for that extra length and then cut it down. In fact, I can show you because we can trim it down more. Now, if you're left-handed, I believe the video said that you could still do it this way, cut it, and then let's see here, crimping it this, and then test it out and figure out which way you need to turn it to crimp it properly. But it's the same thing that you would also then have to flip it and do it like that. So right-handed here, we're gonna say that we wanted to come to this extra space out here, and we wanted to crimp really quick and fold it over. So you have that extra bit of tail there, but that's a little too much in my opinion. So I could shift it down so that I'm in the middle here, crimp it, and bring it over. And that will still give me more length, but a more reasonable amount of length there while still leaving some length here. And then, you know, shift it down a little, go for the middle. Oh, did you catch me? Did you catch me? Doing it the wrong way. Coming here. Clip, it'll go a little farther up. Clip it. No, sorry. Clip it and turn it. There we go. That's still pretty decent length there. So you can also see on this one, that it's going to just stick up a little more. But that's it. I'm quite excited that on one coil, I was able to rebind a full vertical and a landscape book. So, as you get the hang of it and want to be a little more conservative with your spiraling, you can barely put this one in and know that you'll have enough for these, and maybe set it aside if you don't have one to do. Maybe label them landscape book after you do a portrait, or if you do a landscape and cut it nice and close, you can label this longer one as portrait book, ready for a portrait book or whatever. But I hope that this video has been helpful for you, that it gave you the information you needed. Again, any questions, need for clarification, drop it down in the comments. If you made it this far, would you give me a heart emoji in the comments? Or maybe like a tired emoji, like, whew, we made it that far. A celebration emoji. Let's do a celebration emoji if you made it this far with me. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your summer, and that if you are ready to ditch the wire binding, that you can find something that works for your family. Have a great day. Bye.